We all know X marks the spot. It's the quintessential pirate trope. And as expected, Oda's gonna do what Oda's gonna do. He's gonna take that classic trope and crank it up to plot twist overload mode, giving One Piece fans something way deeper than they signed up for. Think back to the Straw Hats friendship arc in Alabasta, Luffy's scar he got from Akainu, and even the not-too-distant chapter 1122, revealing that the giant robot Emmet bearing an X in a way that looks eerily like the Alabasta mark. This symbol isn't just there for sentimentality's sake, it's practically a history lesson wrapped in Oda-style mystery, connecting straight back to Joyboy himself. The letter X clearly has a hidden significance that runs deep, just as much as the letter D hidden in the names of every D clan member. And so today we're putting on our tinfoil hats to explore how this cryptic letter X evolved, eventually morphing into the iconic skull and crossbones Jolly Roger. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about this tragic origin of the Jolly Roger. So when you hear X marks the spot, you think of pirates, treasure maps, that one SpongeBob episode where Mr. Krabs gaslights himself into finding buried treasure based on a fucking board game. But in One Piece, Oda has woven this simple letter into something that holds a secret meaning that's way more valuable than material treasure. During the Alabasta arc, the Straw Hats marked X's on the wrists to protect themselves from Bon Clay's ship-shaping abilities. This tactic was not only practical, but it also symbolized the bond between the crew members, including Vivi and Karu. Ultimately, this connection reinforced the arc's central theme, friendship. It contrasts the dynamics within Crocodile's organization Baroque Works, which demonstrated not so much friendship, but more of a just because we share the same employer doesn't mean I'm inviting you to my birthday party type of relationship. That mark became a reminder of their loyalty, friendship, and the family they found in each other. Vivi carried that X too, signifying that they'd always have each other's backs no matter where they went. But why does this letter keep showing up in more ways than one throughout the series? In the Reverse Mountain arc, the shape of the mountain symbolizes the beginning of the crew's journey. As they sail through the mountain to reach the Grand Line, it represents their transition into a new phase of their adventure together, united by their shared dreams and goals as a family. After the Marineford arc, Luffy acquires an X-shaped mark on his chest, positioned over his heart. This scar symbolizes the sacrifices he made in his quest for freedom, including reuniting with his crew and saving his brother, which ultimately led to tragedy. It serves as a secondary heartbeat for Luffy, forever connecting him to his crew and the individuals who gave their lives to help him survive and pursue his dreams. And this scar embodies the love and bonds that inspire him to follow their will. In chapter 1122, we are treated to a flashback featuring Emmet, the giant robot, and Joyboy himself. This chapter reveals that Emmet is marked with an X on his arm, similar to the markings of the Straw Hats and Vivi during the Alabasta arc. Additionally, it's disclosed that Emmet had hidden a knot tied by Joyboy which contained the most powerful haki of Joyboys. And when Emmet unravels this knot, Joyboy's haki is released. It is as if part of Joyboy has been preserved through time. And this moment highlights Oda's recurring theme of broken bonds throughout the story, this time focusing on the connection between Joyboy and Emmet. And it gives us the impression that Joyboy is fighting alongside Emmet, even in the present. And even in chapter 1130, the recent newspapers feature Luffy in his Gear 5th form during the Egghead Island incident. Robin notices something intriguing, an X on Luffy's wrist. It seems likely that this detail originated from Vivi, who was currently hiding with Big News Morgans. She may have intentionally included this detail during the printing process. The X could serve as a subtle signal to the Straw Hats, reminding them of her presence and her bond with the crew, while also hinting at her plan to return with them very soon. This connection is particularly relevant given its ties to the Alabasta arc, which centers around the themes of friendship and bonds. And when you consider it, the symbolism of the X seen in various examples is Oda's way of revealing that a significant legacy is connected to this letter. We can definitely trace it back to the days of the Ancient Kingdom, and most importantly, to Joyboy. And speaking of powerful symbols, what about the most infamous pirate symbol of all, the skull and crossbones? This next symbol returns us to a pivotal moment in pirate history, Gol D Roger's execution. To truly grasp the weight behind the skull and crossbones, let's expand on how the symbol has become the ultimate mark of freedom and resistance over the centuries in the One Piece world. Roger's death was a spectacle carefully orchestrated by the world government to stamp out his influence once and for all. But defiant to the end, Roger transformed this punishment into a symbol of enduring strength. his legendary smile, staring down death itself with two crossed swords, forming an X over his head. It sent a powerful message. Even in the face of death, his will would soon be inherited by those who would succeed him. Given the numerous similarities between Luffy and Roger as well as Luffy and Joy Boy, we can take a fresh look at that moment which began in Chapter 1 of the series. This examination reveals a different, yet unsurprising understanding. This moment wasn't just a mere act of defiance, it may represent the revival of an ancient legacy, harkening back to the figure who predates even Roger, Joy Boy himself. So it's easy to imagine that towards the end of the Void Century, a scene unfolded with Joy Boy standing before the 20 Kings, who would eventually establish control over the world through the world government. And like Roger, Joy Boy's fate likely served as a chilling reminder that those who defy authority will ultimately face dire consequences. However, the 20 Kings may have inadvertently immortalized him in their efforts to erase him from history. His death would have been a grand spectacle, a carefully orchestrated warning to his followers and allies. Crossed weapons could have framed his final stand, with Joy Boy symbolically becoming the skull above the crossed bones, a primitive version of the modern pirate flag that would forever represent the strength of bonds and the spirit of rebellion. Now consider the transformation of the X from Joy Boy's time to Roger's execution. In Joy Boy's era, the X may have represented bonds, loyalty, and a shared vision for freedom, a simple yet powerful mark that tied his allies together. When the world government saw this symbol as a threat, the X likely became forbidden, and Joy Boy's very name was buried in the annals of history. But a symbol with that much power cannot be simply erased. Just as Roger said it best, as long as people seek the answer of freedom, these things will never cease to be. The same could be said for this X symbol, and over time it would have likely evolved into the classic skull and crossbones we're all so familiar with, carrying Joy Boy's ideals forward, whether people today realized it or not. The X that began as a sign of friendship grew into a symbol that pirates adopted as a reminder of defiance and loyalty to one another, a bond that transcends life and death. Most importantly, it also serves as a promise to those who raise it will live accordingly to their own rules, pursue their dreams, and protect each other like family. And even in the face of death, they will continue to embody the same spirit of rebellion and hope that started with Joy Boy, reawakened with Roger, and now drives Luffy and his crew forward. The Jolly Roger is the heart of every pirate's journey. It's an unbreakable rope that connects them all. There are undoubtedly many symbols that resemble the letter X, including crosses, which technically counts since all you need to do is turn the cross at an angle. Don't ask me how many degrees in person because I don't know shit about math. Even if I Googled it, I will most likely forget it within 5 seconds. But that aside, I want to draw attention to two recently emerged symbols. Since we're now in the final saga, Oda wants us to focus on these symbols as they may be significant to the series' conclusion. So before we delve into those examples, I would like to take a moment to appreciate Monkey D. Dragon. I know, Dragon hasn't been receiving much positive PR lately due to the looking east agenda, but I want to acknowledge his character, particularly his tattoo. We have all speculated about the meaning behind those tattoos, especially since he always didn't have them. He likely received them sometime after the O'Hara incident, which was the catalyst for him to form the Revolutionary Army. His tattoo prominently features several X's, which is quite noticeable. I believe it's reasonable to assume that the theme of bonds and togetherness inspired Oda in designing Dragon's tattoo, as well as the similar design on his knee band that we see in chapter 1066. Clearly, the letter X holds significant meaning for Dragon. Additionally, it's important to note that in chapter 100, where Dragon is officially introduced, Oda includes Roger's inherited will quote. This is fitting, considering how these words align with the symbolism behind the concept of the Jolly Roger. Those exact words are etched in the same close-up shot of Dragon's tattoos. Therefore, Dragon's tattoos are something to keep in mind as we approach the end of the series. With that out of the way, let's get to those examples. The first one is Joy Boy's knot, in which he stored his greatest haki and left it under the care of Emmett. And by the way, shout out to Hidden Island, who recently put out this great video in which he talks more in depth about the importance of knots in the series. Because of that video, honestly, I would have never made this video in the first place. His video helped me visually put two and two together and see that the shape of a knot could easily be interpreted as another X symbol. Knots are created by crossing strands over each other, often forming an X shape at the points where they overlap. So every knot visually resembles a series of interconnected X shapes, symbolizing bonds that are not easily undone. So like the X mark on the wrists of the Straw Hats in Vivi and Alabasta, knots can represent faith in strong ties or friendship that cannot be broken. The second example I'd like to point out is the lineage factor. The lineage factor is essentially One Piece's equivalent to DNA. As we all know, the structure of DNA is in the shape of a double helix. The shape of the double helix resembles a series of crossed shapes when viewed from the side, especially when the two strands twist and intersect, forming X-like patterns along the helix. So in the sense, the lineage factor symbolizes interconnectedness and continuity, a visual representation of how traits, knowledge, and willpower are passed down. So just as DNA carries the essence of one generation to the next, the X symbol in One Piece can represent the ongoing transmission of dreams, ideals, and shared purpose among the characters. So if you step back and think about these connections, the X, the Jolly Roger, and the idea of bonds persisting through generation after generation, almost like a lineage, it makes you wonder, what exactly is being inherited here? We talked about how these symbols feel like a lineage factor for ideals, something passed down from Joyboy to Roger, and now to Luffy. But if this legacy is like a bloodline, what kind of treasure is waiting for us at Laugh Tale? Here's the twist. What if the One Piece treasure is deeply connected to Joyboy's very essence, maybe even his literal lineage factor? So check out this video where we explore the possibility of Joyboy's blood being the One Piece treasure itself, revealing a whole new layer to the symbolism of the sun, the themes of freedom, the eternal flame, and so much more.